Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert alongside Father Joe Grimaldi, and welcome back to the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. Friends, I have 2 words for you. Star Lincoln. Okay, make those 4 words. Visit Star Lincoln today, either in our beautiful showroom or online. The incredible lineup of new 2022 Lincolns are back in stock, and they are ready to move. Shop online with Star Express. Swift, simple, safe. Browse for your new Lincoln from home. Customize and order from home, and receive $1,000 in payment assistance. Have I told you Star will buy your car, even if you didn't buy it from us? The previously owned market is so red hot right now, we are happy to have you stop in and visit with one of our executive sales associates. So remember, you have 2 ways, starlincoln.com, or if you're in southeast Lower Michigan, you can visit us at 12 Mile Road just east of Telegraph in Southfield, Michigan. Star Lincoln, home of the Father Joe Star treatment. That was a little Casey Kasem for you there. Huh?
I love it.
Welcome to American Top 40. Coming up today in the program, we'll talk about the Beach Boys. It was 55 years ago today that the Beach Boys penned their first hit record. It was Round, Round, Get Around, I Get Around.
I remember that one.
There you go. How are you feeling, by the way?
I'm feeling great.
All right, so you had the COVID, about 8 weeks ago now? Has it been about 8 weeks?
About that, yeah.
Right.
I just don't remember. But
You sound great. You sound like you're back to normal.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
And listening to other ones, the last one we did, you actually kind of had like a curious little whiny sound.
Oh,
you know?
God.
Yeah. People didn't really understand. You know what I mean? It was very, very funny. I have a question for you.
Sure.
I have some information that I'll share in a little bit here. What is the number one thing you think the Catholic Church could do to get some of those who have left the Catholic Church in, let's say, the past 10, 20 years to return to the Catholic Church? And I don't want you to give me what you would consider to be the popular vote. I don't want what you think the popular vote would be. I want you to tell me what you, Father Joe Grimaldi, think the best thing you could do right now to attract people back to or to the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question means, only because the question is not because the church is not losing members. As a matter of fact, it's gaining. But by the same token, is the problem we see now is that they're avoiding in person. And so when you said that, what I was thinking is coming back into the church, but not because they left the church, but because they're not going in person.
No, I'm talking about people that have walked away from the Catholic Church, their Catholic religion, whatever it is. This is a Pew Research, but it's under the umbrella of how to get people back to church. Not because of COVID, not anything like that. They just walked away from it.
Okay.
This generation, and let's say we go back 30 years. I have a list of things from Pew that people would like to see happen in the church in order for them to make a real firm return to the church.
What does that mean, coming back to the church? I don't know what that means.
The Catholic Church is larger than any single religious institution in the U.S.
In the world.
Mm-hmm. In spite of its size and influence, the Church in recent decades has faced a number of significant challenges, from declines in membership to a shortage of priests, and, of course, the elephant in the room, which we all know what that is. Here are the 7 facts about American Catholics and their church. Roughly 51 million Catholic adults in the United States. Catholicism has experienced a greater net loss due to religious switching than any other religious tradition in the U.S. This is Pew, I think, and we'll agree. Many Catholics support changes in the Catholic Church. Number 1, 76% allow Catholics to use birth control. Number 2, at 62%, allow priests like you to get married. Number 3, allow divorced Catholics who are remarried without getting an annulment to receive communion. Number 4, allowing cohabitating Catholics to receive communion. Number 5, allow women to become priests. And number 6, recognize the marriages of gay and lesbian couples. This was a recent Pew poll. So that's where I took the topic. What is it, given that going around in your head, what would bring people back to the Catholic Church? What do you think the number one thing that the Catholic Church could do that would bring people back?
I'm not really sure. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I understand why these people are thinking that.
Do you understand?
But many of those things are non-negotiable, and that's where the problem is. Because, you open it up and have just a nice little service and singing and a band, and we leave it at that, and that becomes a religion. Well, no. Religion means that there's going to be challenges. There are standards that we're supposed to follow. We just don't say, well, anything goes, so it doesn't matter. Now, I do understand where the church can, let's say, make things more palatable by having more discussions about things and so on. But a lot of it is non-negotiable. For example, yes, there is some value in gay people being able to get married, but that's a non-negotiable in the Catholic Church. Because the church says, basically, is that marriage is between a man and a woman. That goes back to creation. Because of the biblical background to it, I don't think any of that is going to change in the near future. Now, maybe instead of calling it a marriage, they might be able to call it something else. But, that's... Now, as far as receiving communion, maybe people should be given the option of their choosing when to receive communion. The priest doesn't know about the backgrounds of people. We don't know. For example, a priest was giving out communion, and it happened to be someone who they thought was gay. How could you give communion to that? You know that he's... The priest says, I don't know. Well, then, what about all these other people that come to communion who are living together? Because it's not a matter of two gays living together. It's a matter of two unmarried people living together. They come up to communion. Nobody says a thing about that. Mm-hmm. It's accepted. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the priest doesn't know anyway, because we don't know what's going on in that bedroom. But the thing is this, that for some people that make judgments right away, the priest is wrong in saying that communion is only for those who are living a chaste life. I forget some of the other things that you mentioned. I don't... Well, a lot of stuff is non-negotiable. That's why it's hard. I know,
that's interesting, because I guess in this case, when the research was done, they told people, don't put that into your equation.
Oh, they feel.
Okay, so you were a Catholic, Ted. Now you're not a Catholic. You walked away from the Catholic Church. Why? I think that they're just too stringent on some of these rules, that they could back off a little bit and become a little more modern, right, if you will, and just sort of open that window a little bit and see if some good Catholic parishioners come running through that door.
We don't need that, though. That's the thing, because I know what you just read, but I do know the statistics within the church is that it is growing.
But not in the United States. It's growing in Africa, in Latin America.
But generally speaking, it's growing in numbers.
But people tend to stay local. I mean, you take your newscasts, it's live and local. Then there's national news, and then there's international news. Okay,
and I do understand what you're saying.
So what I'm saying is that, if anything, the victory in the Catholic Church would be right now, keeping the numbers where they are right now, in my opinion.
Well, I think one of the problems we are having, though, is not necessarily those leaving and saying they're going to join another faith. No. What we're finding is that many people have gotten so used to COVID permissions to stay home and watch it on, there's something nice about having online services, but it also means that people become very comfortable, and they would rather watch the Mass on TV from the comfort of their couches at home. Mm-hmm. And so, can we get them back in person?
Yes, and I'll tell you something. That topic is red hot right now because they have, without a doubt, determined that 2 years of people being in quarantine, living that stoic a lifestyle, was not healthy. Mentally, it was not healthy for us. That's why the major corporations are insisting on some form of people coming into the workforce building, the whatever the complex is, once, twice, 3 times a week. The importance of interaction became paramount when we saw how poorly they were doing going to school online. That's why I find it incredible that, like most of the Catholic institutions, high school, secondary education, they remained in classroom.
In person, yeah.
And look at the difference.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Matter of fact, there's so many office spaces for rent that isn't funny because the people are not going. They prefer not to work in person. They would like to do it from home. After all, there's comfort about doing your stuff in your pajamas all day and not having to get dressed, drive to the office, and all these other things. So that's becoming a big problem. Like you say, it's a hot topic today because there's so many empty offices that people are crying out to be filled, and yet people don't want to go back. I don't know how they're going to solve that problem.
Well, I'll tell you,
some are becoming strict.
A lot of them. I mean, the major corporations realize, given studies, that to be socially interactive with a workmate is important.
But I think they have to start with compromise.
Yeah.
1 day, 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah. I'm afraid that are eventually going to let streaming masses become background noise or turn it up.
Well, we have bacon and eggs.
While I'm cooking, or I'll put it on my iPad.
Yeah.
I'll carry Father Joe's 9 o'clock mass around with me from project to project. No, you're not looking across the row and seeing an old friend or having the chance to visit out in the lobby. However long you may spend together, social interacting.
Yeah, I think that's important. Very. It's really hurt us as a people, generally speaking, I don't know what they're going to do, but they're changing jobs left and right so that they can stay at home. I'm glad to see that there is some forceful intervention by certain CEOs that say, well, unless you come to work, you're not going to, get paid. So,
well, they're getting research back, and I'm sure that a lot of people are saying, we have got to look into this because it's important for us that people working from home are fulfilling what we need to get done from home. It appears to be done. I mean, you're right. It's funny, I didn't come into this thinking about the streaming of the Catholic Mass and people saying, why should I go to Mass? I came into the topic looking for reasons to come back into the Catholic Church, not even thinking about the streaming portion of it.
So see, the major problem we're having, generally speaking, is getting people to come back in person.
Right.
They're not leaving the faith. They're just not going to church. The live streaming, it's interesting we're talking about that because I'm in the midst of getting it. I was
going to ask you about that.
We're in the midst of getting it. We don't have it yet. And there's pros and cons now because people say, well, the pros is, for example, you have a funeral and you have relatives in California. They can't be there. Wouldn't it be great if they can just watch it live stream from your church, and this way they would see their uncle or their aunt, see the ceremony that's being held for them. But it's becoming problematic because it affects the people that's supposed to be to Mass once a week in person, where they would rather stay home and watch live stream from home. So trying to get people back into church, how do you lure them back into church? Because as you mentioned, socialization is a very important part of our lives. I find it too, in a secular way, when you speak about people shopping, how nice it was to be able to look at an item and say, yeah, this is the one, I think, no, maybe that one or something like that. Now, people prefer ordering online, when you don't really get to see the thing online. Oh, you see pictures of it and things like this. But knowing exactly what it feels like, is this the one I really want, and all of this. I think there's pros and cons to that. People prefer to stay home and do it online. People keep saying that that's what it is going to be in the future, that there won't be any stores as such, physical stores as we know them. I find that to be a sad thing because, it limits your socialization. Again, just going out to have to interact with the storekeeper is another form of trying to deal with humanity on a real basis. So it's the church, it's the business world. I think it's a lot of places are being affected, and I don't know where it's going to end up.
You know, it's funny because over the past week I decided that, I needed to get some things done. I needed a mouse for my computer, okay? Mm-hmm. So I went to one of the office stores. I had a horrible experience. The shelves were empty. There was hardly anyone there to help me out. And the person that was there to help me out didn't want to help me out, so he basically just pointed at something. That I could get online at probably a better price because of the fact that I had an option to shop. But I got what I wanted, and I brought it home, and ta-da, it worked out. The other thing I needed to do is I wanted to get some sweatshirts for working out. But I wanted something with a logo on it, a college logo. So I walked into a sporting goods store. I walked in. The smell inside that store was wonderful. There was leather from the leather high school jackets, the rawhide of the baseball mitt. And the kids that worked there were just happy as heck to have a summer job. And they were great. Do you have a discount with us? That was great. I went from there to an Ace Hardware because Ace is the place with the helpful hardware person. The smell of a hardware store to this day. Yep, I'm in a hardware store. That mixture of all the different smells in a hardware store. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf once said. Yeah. I think it's good sometimes to just tap your foot inside the building instead of tapping a click on your mouse and doing it that way. And I think the same thing is true with the Catholic Church.
It's important.
You should walk through those doors, take a look at that wood or whatever the case may be. Look over and say hi to a real neighbor, not a streaming neighbor. Boy, did we make a right turn on that. But either way, I guess I'll leave the pews and the Pew Research here and let you say a prayer.
Which leads me to a question to you.
Surely.
When do we know that the pandemic is over? We don't know when it is. It's something that's continuing all the time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Heavenly Father, at this time of the pandemic, let us foster respect and solidarity with others, especially those who are weak or poor. Let us remain calm and ignore unsubstantiated rumors. Let us take advantage of living together as a family. Let us attend to moments of prayer. Let us cultivate responsibility, patience, and hope. We ask you this through Christ our Lord. Amen. And God bless you. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.